Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Judy, a board-certified internal medicine and lifestyle medicine physician. I practice medicine with a holistic perspective, and my goal here is to share information that will empower you to live a long, vibrant, and prosperous life. In this video, I will be sharing my personal story as to how I became a plant-based doctor and a holistic doctor. So to tell you the full story, I have to go back to my roots, my origins, which play a huge role in the way that I view health and healing. So I grew up in Bermuda. I'm originally from Bermuda, and in Bermudian culture, I find that people are more open to holistic methods of health and healing. And so people are more open to different natural remedies and less quick to resort to taking prescription medications in general. So that's the first thing. And then also, I'm Seventh-day Adventist, and I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist household. And Seventh-day Adventist is a Christian religion that emphasizes and prioritizes healthy living. And part of healthy living is not smoking, not drinking, and also a plant-based diet. Vegetarianism, veganism are diets that were encouraged growing up from the religious standpoint. Although now I think a lot of people that are Seventh-day Adventists are not plant-based, but there's actually been studies on this years ago. It's the Adventist Health Studies, and you can actually look them up. And it basically studied Adventists around the country, but primarily based in Loma Linda, California, where there's a large proportion or large number of Adventists living there. They studied the health outcomes from the Seventh-day Adventist community as far as all-cause mortality, development of type 2 diabetes, different cancers, cardiovascular disease, early death, and dementia. And basically, to summarize, they found that individuals that had a vegetarian diet and a vegan diet had lower rates of chronic diseases in general. So those studies didn't really lead to some useful information that is still being used today and mentioned when I go to lifestyle medicine conferences. There's always at least one reference to the Adventist Health Studies. So I would say that my upbringing played a huge role in the way that I view health and healing from the get-go. And then secondly, I've always had a respect for growing food and farming. My dad was a farmer. He had several gardens in the island of Bermuda, and in the summer, myself and my siblings, actually when we were little kids, we sometimes would work with him and help him in the garden. We had chickens. He used to sell the egg. And even now, my mom has a garden, my dad has a garden, and my siblings, who both live in Bermuda, they garden as well. So gardening has always been a respected part of what I consider a healthy, holistic lifestyle. So growing your own food. And when you see where your food comes from, it makes you more appreciative of it. It makes you more mindful as you're eating it. So I would say definitely my background and where I grew up and the household that I grew up in definitely played a role. Now, my mom is a nurse. She's retired now, but that also was my first introduction to the healthcare system, I think. And so I was interested in the sciences just naturally. And my dad was a teacher, so I just always loved education. My parents really encouraged us to pursue higher education. And, they were really big on not wasting our time. So they say watching TV and silly cartoons and things like that. They'd rather us read books. So I guess I was just primed to be a super studious person, I suppose. And so it was probably no accident that I chose medicine. And although I didn't go straight through to medical school from undergrad, I had another career first, and I'll probably talk about that in another video. But one thing that I knew was going to be an issue for me when I enrolled in traditional allopathic training here in the United States, MD program, I knew that it was not going to provide me with the knowledge that I needed and that I wanted as far as nutrition goes, as well as holistic healing methods. And it's so funny because I remember during my interview, the dean with one of the deans of the School of Medicine, he asked me, so what do you perceive to be the most challenging thing that you are going to encounter when you start medical school? And he probably thought that I was going to say something like about how difficult medical school is and studying and retaining information. But do you know what I said? I laugh at it now because it's like, I can't believe I said that. But I said the most challenging thing to me is probably going to be knowing that the education that I get in medical school is going to be inadequate as far as holistic health and the nutrition knowledge that I feel that I need. He probably was like, what? But honestly, so I've always kind of been holistic minded, but I chose medicine because I just felt that it would open more doors for me, more opportunities. In Bermuda, they had MDs, so that's why I didn't choose DO school and I didn't choose PA school. But I've always been kind of a holistic minded person, and even growing up, we were not vegan or vegetarian per se, but we didn't eat a lot of meat. We did eat dairy and some animal products, but our diet for the most part was not heavy in meat, and of course we didn't eat red meat. So there's that. So I started medical school and I graduated from Wake Forest School of Medicine, and my first introduction to plant-based diets was in 2011. I was in residency, or maybe it was 2010, and I met someone who was vegan, and I remember her telling me about the health benefits of a vegan diet. And mind you, medical school, as I predicted, didn't teach me about nutrition. And so my ignorance, I remember saying to her that, vegan diet is deficient in nutrients. Like, that is not a healthy diet, or something like that, I said to her. And I think she maybe gave me a resource to look at or something like that. She was very patient or whatnot, in spite of my ignorance at that time. And so I read the article and I said, okay, this is interesting. And then maybe fast forward to a few years later, and I went to my first lifestyle medicine conference, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, through which I'm now board certified under. That was the first time when I met a large group of physicians who were practicing the way that I knew medicine should be practiced. I didn't know what the term was. I didn't even know it was a thing. And I did not know that there were other doctors who, like me, really wanted to help patients get off medications, prevent diseases from developing in the first place, rather than coming into action only once they have symptoms. And so that was a huge eye-opener for me. And I felt finally like, oh my goodness, this is my tribe of people. And I've been attending the lifestyle medicine conferences ever since. I think that was like in 2016 or maybe 2015, something like that. And then also around the same time, I had my own little health issue. All of a sudden, my body was like not in agreement with dairy anymore. I noticed when I would eat dairy, and I loved dairy, like cheese, macaroni and cheese, ice cream, all of that stuff. Suddenly, I'm getting like diarrhea, GI symptoms and things like that, whereas I never had that before. And then I also developed hormonal acne, which was kind of related to my menstrual cycle at that time. Whereas prior to that, I did not have any issues with acne. I did not have any issues eating dairy. And so I'm like, well, where is this coming from? Like out of the blue, right? It was like so random. And I had acne really, really bad. And my mom told me that if I cut out dairy, that my acne would probably go away. And again, mind you, this was still kind of early on in my journey to learning about plant-based nutrition. And I don't even know how she knew that at that time. I guess moms always knew, right? But I remember being skeptical, like, I don't know about that. I haven't heard that before. I don't know. But I tried it. I don't even remember doing a whole lot of research further, but I tried it because I was like, it couldn't hurt, right? And much to my surprise, when I cut out dairy, I was still eating meat like turkey, fish, and chicken, which was what we ate, white meat only. I noticed that when I cut out the dairy, my acne cleared up. And so I would do it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and the skin was clear. I was happy. My GI symptoms went away. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But like most people, I kept having relapses several times for probably like a few years before I finally cut dairy out, like for good, because dairy just does a terrible number on my body, and I absolutely have no need for dairy at this point, and so it's not a part of my life. I broke up with it, threw the number away, done. Okay, done with dairy. So yeah, so that was that. So it was basically a combination of my upbringing, my own little health issue, and my mom's recommendation, and then also around the same time meeting people who were plant-based and who were helping their patients adopt a healthier diet, a healthier lifestyle, and they were seeing remarkable results that I didn't even know was possible. And I remember when I was in residency, I remember asking during one of my rotations, it was nephrology, and And I remember, you see people that are on dialysis and you see how that is such a huge decline in the individual's quality of life, having to go to the dialysis center 3 times a week. Usually those patients do have other comorbidities such as cardiovascular disease, and they just tend to be sicker overall. And so I wanted to know, how do we prevent people from getting kidney disease in the first place? And I remember my attending saying that there's nothing that they could do to prevent it. It just happens with age. And that was a residency that I was asking that question. But for some reason, even though that was the answer that I was given, I was never satisfied with it. I was still like, no, there's got to be something that can be done to prevent as many people from getting chronic kidney disease as we currently have. And so I've been on this quest, I think, to really find out what the answer was. And I found the answer when I discovered plant-based nutrition, basically. And as far as the research goes, and as far as my experience in my personal life, in my patient's life, and in my clients' lives, I have found that the one dietary pattern that has the most benefits as far as reducing one's risk for just about every chronic condition, and as well as increasing your longevity, is a plant-forward diet. Not a vegan diet, not even necessarily 100%. You don't have to be 100%, but a plant-heavy diet where most of the food that you're eating is unprocessed, sugar-free, and a plant origin. So fruits, vegetables, beans, and whole grains. And of course, you can get into the weeds and it can get very detailed and nuanced, and I'll put out more videos going into more detail about nutrition and diet. But that's basically how I discovered plant-based nutrition. It's basically like a foundation of respecting the value of food, respecting the value of natural remedies and holistic healing, to my journey to becoming a physician and asking those questions that no one was giving me answers to, such as how do we actually prevent people from getting sick? How do we prevent people from needing us, basically? How do we prevent people from being in and out of the hospital and basically being on a downward spiral once they get certain conditions and they are in and out of the hospital every month, every other month, and then that ultimately leads to a premature death? How do we prevent this? And I'm surprised that more people aren't asking this question, because it's not something that is talked about a whole lot, and it really should be. And so I believe firmly that medicine, allopathic traditional medicine, needs to embrace non-traditional methods. It needs to embrace the integrative medicine, functional medicine, natural remedies. It needs to embrace nutrition, and physicians absolutely should be taught nutrition in medical school. Physicians absolutely should be taught about what kind of foods to educate their patients on so that they can actually optimize their health. And so I've done a lot of studying, a lot of research on plant-based nutrition. I did a plant-based nutrition certification, and then I did also the lifestyle medicine certification. So I would say for probably the past, it's been almost 10 years, maybe 8 years, I have been on this journey to learn as much as I can about holistic health and healing so that I can take that information to my patients. And I know that I'm on the right path, and I'm so excited that now, every year the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is increasing in number. There's more and more physicians and healthcare providers that are seeking the certification, that are coming to the conferences, that are discovering the power of food, exercise, movement, stress reduction, and sleep as far as optimizing patients' health and minimizing chronic disease. So it's been an amazing journey. It truly gives me a sense of fulfillment, because instead of giving someone a medication only, I am able to empower the patient with tools that they can do to help their own health to be better. For example, so hypertension, rather than just prescribe a blood pressure lowering medication, I want to get to the underlying cause of why the blood pressure is high. Is it stress? Is it excess weight? Is it diet? Is it a genetic component? Is it something that we need to investigate and order more blood tests? So I'm looking at all of those things, and then once we figure out which one it most likely is related to, I would always give them something that they can do, that they can change if they're open to it. So that is the power of lifestyle medicine, holistic health, being a holistic doctor. I think it's the best way to practice, and I wish and I hope that one day medical schools in the United States will embrace lifestyle medicine and holistic health, and doctors here will be trained in that and trained in nutrition, and really understand and appreciate the true power of food as medicine and the power of food to heal. And so that's my goal. I simply started out a few years ago with social media. I created an account on Instagram and Facebook. And my main purpose there was simply to share information that I just did not have time to share in the clinic with my patients. So it really was a place where my patients could go and get additional health information. My username was the Plant-Based MD, and it just grew from there. I recently changed my name to my actual name, Dr. Judy MD, but for a while my website and social media handles were the Plant-Based MD. So that's my story of how I became a plant-based doctor and a holistic doctor. I hope that this story was interesting and enjoyable for you. I would love to stay in touch with you. Please comment below. Feel free to shoot me a message. We'll have the links with my website and other ways that you can contact me. And of course, make sure that you are subscribing to this video. Share this video with someone that you know who can benefit. And I will see you next time.